Hey traders, TG Watson's here. It's January 12th, Sunday when I'm recording this. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And I know the market's been pulling back for quite some time. Basically, from the way we've been seeing it, the market has been pulling back since December 2nd, and here it is January 12th. So it feels like it's getting a little bit long in the tooth for how long this has been going. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then wanted to show you guys, so those of you in the simpler central room and those of you on YouTube, I'm going to be doing this for first portion to kind of cover the broad market and all that. And then for the Moxie subscribers, I was going to go through these lists of stocks down here below and kind of talk about some of our own positions and how that's going. So let's dive in. And remember, this is for educational purposes only, and we will talk about this as far as our class list today. All right, so the other thing I also wanted to cover is I'm going to be showing you guys how one of the accounts that I opened up at $25,000 more than doubled it, but kind of where we're at and how that worked out. So let me kind of dive into a few things first. If we look at the S&P and kind of where we're at, I wanted to relate some of these things to breadth. So that's kind of the first thing. So if we look at this on the right, this is the number of stocks over their 50-day SMA. And this is a pretty good barometer for how well the market is doing in this moment. And a lot of times what we see is when this number gets 80% or even close to 90%, the market's pretty much topped out, because it means 80 to 90% of stocks are over their 50-day SMA, and there's really not that much more room to go to the upside. And on the downside, usually around 20%, well, actually, I guess I wrote 30%, when here we are down to 20%. You can just kind of see how this doesn't like to stay down here for too long, and I'll show you more examples as we go on with this. But the interesting thing, and as I said, if we look at this, we have 16% of stocks above their 50-day SMA. So yeah, it's been pretty rough out there, right? I mean, not a whole lot of stocks are working out or going up right now if this has been going down the way it has been. But, hopefully it's darkest before it gets light, because what we're seeing here is only 16% of stocks are above their 50. I mean, how much lower can we go is kind of the question. And so what I want to do is show you guys what this looks like in a historical form. So you can see here we are and here we are, 16%, and the market's been down since December 2nd. All right, well, let's kind of scroll over a little bit, and if I actually zoom in on this one and out on this one, and you can see right here, I'll put my cursor again, here we were down to about, gosh, it even probably got down to 3%, 5%, 10%, and look at that. That was the bottom of the market as far as that last major correction that we had there. So then let's kind of go a little bit further, and we can kind of find the next area that the market bottomed. Now this is going to be a little bit of an exception because this was the actual bear market, but you can see here when the number of stocks over their 50-day SMA got down to like almost zero, that was the bottom of the market. So again, when this thing gets really, really low, it tends to demonstrate the bottom of the market. I can even show you one little interim here. Here's another situation right here where you can see it also got down to about 16%, and oh look, that was the bottom of the market as far as that pullback goes. So let's kind of zoom out a little bit further and see some other things that we can look at. Let me zoom this out just a bit, and then we can come over here. Let's see, that was the 20th. Well, that was, we all know what that was. So we come over here and zoom out just a bit, and you can see here that was also the bottom of the market for that. So maybe not the best example in that case, but really what I'm trying to show you guys is even the most recent scenarios, you can just even see, let me kind of come over here just a little bit, you can see even through here, when we got down to a low, that was the low of the market. It bounced right in through there. And even during the bear market, let me kind of move that over right there. And you can see right here where it got down to 16%. Hey, look, that was the bottom of the market and it bounced. Yes, it was in a bear market, but it bounced. So what I'm trying to show you guys here is, at least if you look at kind of, how many stocks are up versus down, it's a lot of stocks are down, and we're trying to figure out how many more, how much further this can go to the downside. The other thing is we can kind of look at a little bit more nuanced view. This incorporates the 20-day, the 50-day, and the 200-day. And you can see, yes, it has all been very, very down. But here's another interesting thing to look at. We started getting some pretty good bounces in the market when the 20-day got down to 8%. Okay, again, kind of the ultimate low number. And what we've been seeing, even though the market has been going down, this week, we bounced on Monday, continued going down after that. Notice the number of stocks over their 20-day SMA actually stayed up. So it has actually been increasing. Yes, the 50-day has kind of been suppressed, but what it looks like to me is that there might actually be a handful of stocks that are starting to find some support and starting to actually move up a little bit in preparation for whenever the market is ready to turn around and start moving back up. All right, so that's kind of the big picture that I'm seeing through there. And if we come over, let's take a look at the overall S&P and what's going on here. There's the other thing I wanted to show you is kind of this channel situation. Now, I know my charts are looking very, very messy right here, but let's zoom in on a couple things. So if you look at this right here, you can see, and this was going all the way back to 2021. Again, it was just kind of a correction. What I wanted to show you is look how well this channel, let me change my color in through here. You can see here, look how well this channel was holding, and eventually it held the bottom and then took off. So notice the channel. So let me come over here a little bit further, and I marked another one. There's another channel, and look at this, following the channel for a while, and eventually it held and then started to move back up. Okay, come on over here a little bit. Oh, look, there's another big channel. Okay, this was the biggie. This was the one that lasted 3 months from let's see, September into August, September, October. And then you can see in through here like that, and it was like right around Halloween that this thing started to take off. But look at that channel, very nice, orderly channel. And then you come over here, here's another pullback, and you can see this. You could even see another little channel that this thing did and finally came out of the channel. And then we come over a little bit further, and then it gets a little bit messy, but let me zoom in on this for you guys here. And what do we see? Another channel. This thing has been actually doing pretty well inside of this channel, and here we are right at the bottom of the channel. So we of course don't know exactly what's going to be happening early next week, but if I were to look at some of these things, and I'll show you guys some more tickers and stuff for the Moxie subscribers, we're at the low of the channels. The breadth is super low, and while we might have a little bit more downside, maybe some sort of flush out, who knows, something like that. But I think that, especially since this pullback started December 2nd, and here it is, January 12th, I think we're closer to the end of this pullback than the beginning of it. So I'm really kind of looking around and gearing up for building my watch list on when the market is ready to start moving up. Now, if we also zoom out, we can look at this and say, okay, what was the big picture? Why is this happening? What's happening? And where is this going to possibly go? So for the Moxie subscribers, the one thing that I pointed towards was that if you look here on the monthly chart, we got really far outside of these outer lines, these outer boundaries that I see. Okay, now it's a monthly chart. It can stay out there for quite some time. And so it's really kind of a matter of like, okay, it's just kind of context. And what we could also see, let me zoom in here a little bit further for us. The other thing that I talk about is when price gets too far away from the moving average. And we noticed that we were in a really good bull streak for quite some time. And look how far and how long price had stayed away from that moving average. And you can see that price just doesn't like to stay too far away from its moving averages. And so when we finally got the Fed talking a little bit hawkish about 2025, like, okay, maybe we're not going to have any more rate cuts, or we're going to pause or something like that, the market needed to pull back and correct. And so you can see here another situation on the weekly chart where price got a little too far away from the moving average. And what did it do? Well, now it's pulling back to the weekly 21. And again, the weekly 21 tends to be an area where we want to initially look for support. It doesn't have to hold, but it is an area where I'm at least looking for a pretty healthy bounce. And I'll show you another example as to why I'm looking at that, because even if it doesn't hold, you just go back and you can see there was a bounce, there was a bounce, there was a test of the 21, even there, right there. And you can see that we had bounces. Even if eventually, let's just say worst case scenario, it starts going into a bear market, typically it bounces at the 21 first. And we haven't seen a bounce yet, at least not a substantial one. And so that's why I'm looking at this. You can even look here. There was a bounce at the 21. Yes, it went lower, but again, it bounced at the 21 first. There was a bounce, a little bit of a dip, but if you look here, mostly it was sitting right at the 21. Then here we are again at the 21. So I'm trying to put all these pieces of the puzzle together. And as I said, I'm kind of gearing up for a bounce starting to set up pretty soon. So I still remain bullish in this market. I still pretty excited about it. In fact, here's the other thing I wanted to talk about. If we look at, let's see, here is a screenshot of a new account that I fired up back in, I'll call it August, end of July, August. Put in $25,000, and we've been doing pretty nicely with this thing. You can see obviously around the election things really started to take off. But here's the big thing I want to tell you. So it's January 12th today, Monday. So last Monday, the 6th, New Year, the market had bounced up, but we had been in a correction or a pullback since December 2nd. And I had the peak. So I don't know, $60,000+ in this account from 25. And that was the highest value that this account has been since this particular run, and that was on Monday the 6th, and that was after the market had been pulling back for a month already. So what this tells me is I still think that there's a lot of good strength and energy out there. It's just the market is still correcting and still needs to kind of find its footing. But underneath the surface, if you kind of keep finding these right names, there is still some support out there. So yes, since last week started to pull back again from Monday, yeah, the account's down a little bit, but on Monday it hit the high water mark. So that kind of gives me some really good comfort and confidence for what's really actually going on with this market underneath the surface. All right, so if we want to look at the QQQ, anything else like that, it's going to be basically the same thing as the S&P. You know, it just got a little bit overbought, a little bit stretched. You can see here it started to push outside of these boundaries and these moving averages, and we're really starting to come down into here on the weekly chart. And so we kind of coming through here, and you can see also that the NASDAQ has been doing a really good job just kind of staying inside of this channel. And at some point, we should be looking for this to move up. Now, this is a little bit too early. I do want to mention it, but it's a little too early. I just want to see if maybe there's just a little bit of an undercut. And if we do move up this coming week, look at that undercut and see if that's actually going to be an undercut and rally. And then the other thing I want to call your attention to is notice that price has been going down. The Moxie indicator has been going down, but we might start be seeing the Moxie indicator move up. So if we start to see some divergence on that, that could also start showing us, demonstrating that the low for this particular move is in, and actually we could start moving back up. So I'm kind of interested in seeing what's happening in through here for this coming week if we can get some strength. Now I know also the other variable is the inauguration. So a lot of people have been talking about that as kind of some defining moment. I'm really not too sure if that's going to be a really big deal. You know, I think the market has really priced in a lot of stuff. Obviously, we saw that around the election. And so, you know, the inauguration, okay, does that really, you know, is the market going to do anything? I think it's actually been pulling back ahead of time, maybe even to get ready for the inauguration in a bullish way. I don't know. We'll have to keep watching the charts and see if it actually matters, but I'm not too worried about it. I think that, you know, we're already 7 weeks into this pullback, and so I'm ready for it to start moving back up. How about the IWM? This is another thing that I've been seeing. Notice the other trend line. Like I kind of showed you guys on the S&P. Look at this trend line in through here. This has been a pretty decent pullback, you know, and pretty orderly. You know, it's been really just kind of following these channels in through here and doing an orderly pullback. And so I want to see if this starts to hold at some point. Okay, we're still not quite there, but I think we're getting close. And then the other thing is we look at the RSP. This is the equal weight of the S&P, and you can see same thing. Look what it did on the monthly chart. Look what it did on the weekly chart. It came right up here to the outer boundary. I mean, that is pretty darn perfect as far as, you know, where some resistance is, and most likely that price is going to start pulling back. So the RSP, the equal weight S&P, was also giving us that clue. And remember, I also said when price gets too far away from moving averages, it likes to come back to it. Well, notice this gap between price and the moving average, and look where price is now. So I look at this and I say, I think we might be pretty darn close to finding some support. And so I'm going to be gearing up for that. And also you can see here, it's had a pretty nice trend line, just like the IWM, just like the NASDAQ, and just like the S&P. It's been holding this pullback trend line pretty cleanly. So now we just have to be patient and see when the market is really finally able to find some support, turn up. And in fact, if you guys look at this, the RSP looks just like that 50-day breadth graph that I showed you. So it keeps kind of pushing, it's pretty heavy, but at some point the bottom should be in. We'll see these things bounce, and you know, we should have a good time after that. All right, and then one more thing we can kind of talk about, SMH. It's still very, very sideways. Really not much to say here, although I was encouraged by this move up. Yes, it had to do with the Consumer Electronics show and NVIDIA and stuff like that. So it was a little bit of a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. As long as this doesn't start to break to new lows, I'm going to be okay with it. It was maybe a shot across the bow, hopefully saying, hey, we're really kind of energetic, we're bullish, we want to go, but it just wasn't the right timing because, again, the whole market is still pulling back. So let's see if this pullback, after the jump up based on the news, finds some support, and if we can actually keep going up at some point from there. So that should take us from the breadth and the S&P. Now we can kind of talk about the put-call ratio. This might be a little bit challenging to see for those of you who haven't looked at this before. The put-call ratio has been pretty unreliable over the last almost 2 years. because a lot of times when the put call ratio gets low, it's supposed to mark a top of the market, and it has a couple times, but there have been other situations like here where the market just kept going, and here where the market just kept going, and we get a little bit of a dip, and then that doesn't do much, and here, yes, that marked a little bit, but then look how long that the put call ratio has been low, and really all we've gotten is kind of a little pullback like that. So I haven't been using this one too much to give me information as far as the market goes. The other one we can look at is UVIX and the VIX. And yep, there has been some volume coming in. Of course, the market has been under pressure. And yes, there has been a double bottom in through here. And so yes, if the market does still want to continue to go lower, the UVIX and the VIX are poised to support that. So this is something to push against. If I'm wrong about the market, the low of the market being near, this could be saying we still think that there's more volatility to come. So if this continues to build and hold, yeah, we need to watch out below for the market. But if we start to see this thing falter and start to drop back down, that's going to be great. That's going to be bullish for the market. And if we look at the VIX, we can kind of see similar, this actually is looking kind of bullish, isn't it? So what we really need to do is watch something like this, and if it continues to go up, okay, the market's going to still be under pressure. But if this starts to falter and starts to break lower, then we should have a little bit of a green light for the market itself. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoy that. I'm going to be starting to post these things out on YouTube and in the Central Room over the weekends. And yeah, as I said, for the rest of the Moxie group, I'm going to pause the video and you guys can come over here. So see the rest of the video, you can come over to the Moxie Room. We're doing $7 trials for 30 days. Otherwise, come on over, check it out. We have a great time. This is the kind of market that is really working well for me. The small caps basically are doing well, and that is the playground that I love to be in, and we're really seeing some strength out there. So it kind of feels a little bit like 2020 all over again, and I think it's going to be lasting a little bit longer, especially since we got Bitcoin running with stuff too. So hope to see you guys over there, and thanks again. So for the Moxie Crew, I'll see you in a second.